Okay, so yeah, the final panel is about Asia, and we have 4 representatives from 4 different countries in Asia who I believe can be considered experts in their respective countries, even if they're not natively from those countries. So I guess quickly, Phil from Vietnam, Dave, you represent Hong Kong, Evelyn represents Korea, and then Neil represents China. Maybe quickly, I'll have each of you introduce kind of what your company is and what it does and why it's different.
Hello everyone, my name is Phil from Bitcoin Vietnam. What we have been operating since 2014, and what we provide in Vietnam is a Bitcoin exchange service and provide the basic infrastructure for the Bitcoin ecosystem in Vietnam. We first start with a Bitcoin broker service called Bitcoin Vietnam, and then the live exchange VBTC, and then cash to VN is the remittance service to Vietnam, and we recently launched a Bitcoin ATM placed in the center of Ho Chi Minh City.
Hi everyone, my name is Dave Chapman. I'm from INX International, based in Hong Kong. We started, well, 3 of us started INX International 3 years ago, initially as a Bitcoin exchange. We then very quickly matured into a blockchain technology and payment solutions company. So blockchain seems to be all the hype, and so what does that mean? When we started with a Bitcoin exchange, we had a very successful product, and we were the first company in the world to launch a Bitcoin debit card that allowed customers to convert Bitcoin into real fiat on a debit card that they could use on any major debit card network. It was around the point of this product that we found that our customers were using our products in different ways. Thanks to the creativity and the good decision-making of our CTO, all the software that we developed was modular by design, and also could be deployed software as a service, so we could deploy it very, very quickly. What we found was customers were coming to us and saying, wow, you guys can offer a web wallet, a mobile wallet, you offer an exchange platform, and you can also offer these very high loading limit debit cards. And the response was yes. And from there, what we've found is an enormous growth into customers looking for a easily deployable, easily scalable, and easily manageable loyalty point program. So customers come to us. One of our most popular use cases is people who have an enormous amount of affiliates globally dispersed around the world. So a customer might come to us with 10,000 to 100,000 affiliates globally dispersed, and they're looking for a very efficient payment mechanism. Before they met us, they were using bank wires and bank checks. Extremely slow, extremely expensive, and it required the affiliate to have a bank account. What we can do at ANX is we can deploy a technology solution that allows these customers to receive a branded debit card, and ANX takes care of all the distribution and logistics. And we can also create a digital asset. We can put that on the Bitcoin blockchain, or we can put that on a private blockchain that we've heard about today. ANX, as far as a technology perspective, is technology agnostic. If you want a multi-chain blockchain, open assets, Ethereum, Bitcoin, we can do all that. So now at the end of that solution, our customers can pay their affiliates or their customers 24 hours a day in real time, immediately at very, very low cost. And it does that without the use of any banks.
Hi, I'm Evelyn from Coinplug. Coinplug also started as a Bitcoin exchange back in 2013 when we are successfully running Bitcoin exchange and wallet service linked to all local banks and security companies in Korea. So using our wallet, you can transfer any funds to any local bank accounts instantly. And you can use 14,000 ATMs throughout the country to withdraw cash from your Bitcoin wallet. Although we run successful B2C service, we wanted to expand our business into B2B business. So we developed a private blockchain, which is called FIDO Ledger. And we run OP Sign, which is digital authentication service on blockchain, and digital notary service, Noteproof. And with both two solutions, we've successfully provided the solutions to KB Bank, KB Financial Group, has many business sectors. One is bank and the other is card. We've run their live data on their live network, providing blockchain-based solutions. So now we used to be known as a company, as a well-funded blockchain company. Now we're known as a blockchain company in Korea that actually do business with local banks.
Hi everybody, my name's Neil, and I'm co-founder at Remitsy. Remitsy is a payment platform for businesses wanting to make payments into China. So you can think of it a little bit like PayPal, but we only do business payments and we only make payments to China. The problem we're solving is that the international payment network, for example SWIFT or SEPA, aren't very efficient, but the domestic banking networks are. So if you're making a domestic bank payment in the UK, it's generally pretty fast and free, and the same goes for China. But when you're pushing it through the SWIFT network, it's generally very slow, and there's a lot of fees involved in there. What we're doing is we're using Bitcoin in the middle as a medium to convert, for example, pounds into renminbi, and allow UK businesses or American businesses or basically any business outside of China to purchase goods and services from China at a much lower rate than they would get through banks. I think as well, it's important to point out that initially we thought we were competing just with banks for transactions, but actually after starting the business, we suddenly realized that many small businesses are actually not making payments through banks. They're making payments through services such as PayPal, Payoneer, these third-party payment providers. And the fees through these third-party payment providers are super high. For example, PayPal, we calculate to get, whether it's US dollars or pounds, into renminbi, into China, the total fees are between 7 and 9%. So every time a business purchases their products or services from China via PayPal, they're losing 7 to 9% to the various middlemen in that payment process. That's obviously a lot of friction to doing international trade. We cost 1%, so we're hoping that we can improve that process a lot.
Okay, thanks. I want to focus a bit on the topic of innovation, if I can. So first of all, which of you believe that your company is doing something that's really innovative and new and not seen in other countries?
Well, I would say that we're definitely doing something all of us are doing something very innovative.
Kind of describe what that is.
But I mean, for example, prior to Bitcoin and blockchain technology, if you ever wanted to convert a currency and move it across the world, you would have to go through institutions like very large banks. You would have to go through the SWIFT network. It would go through many very large organizations with thousands and thousands of people pushing paper from this person to that person. We're a 7-person company, and we've got a little piece of software that will convert these pounds to renminbi in a few hours, and we're doing it cheaper than these much larger organizations. If that's not innovation, I don't know what is.
Why don't I try and mix it up a little bit and say how do we approach innovation? We speak to a tremendous lot of people who come to us with a new idea, and some of the ideas are fantastic and they deserve to get to the light of day. The unfortunate reality of that is time to market is everything. For us, if we meet someone and they want to partner with us or they want to do something that we think is innovative, and we say, how long until you go live? If they say 12 months, the harsh reality is in another 12 months they won't be around. Another different approach with innovation is that in our case, we were fortunate enough to let our customers define how to use your products. We have use cases with the products that we've developed where we didn't anticipate them being used like that. So rather than focus on something that this is how my product is and this is how it's going to work and this is how I'm going to sell it, be open to the idea that people may find different ways to use your products and then leverage that, take opportunity as well.
Coinplug contributed in law changes in Korea related to fintech. One is that Coinplug proposed to the government that the government should allow financial institutes in Korea to use cloud service. So the law changed recently, and no non-banks were allowed to do remittance service from Korea to overseas. That law is changing in July. And thirdly, no digital evidence, all digital evidence used to be overpowered by paper evidences. Now digital evidence is as valid as paper evidence starting last week. And lastly, all Korean individuals were only allowed to use government official digital authentication service. That law changed last year, so now blockchain-based digital authentication service can be legal service in Korea. So those were the big 4 innovations we contributed in.
For Bitcoin Vietnam, what we do, I think everything we do in Vietnam is already innovative compared to what the country currently have. We were the first one to run the Bitcoin exchange in Vietnam, the first one to bring the Bitcoin ATM to Vietnam, the first one to utilize Bitcoin to do remittance service to Vietnam. So that's how Bitcoin Vietnam innovative stuff.
Okay, so maybe I can hear from the other 2 guys how the laws in your country have affected, or rather whether they enabled, or what conditions in your country kind of made possible what you're doing.
So in Hong Kong, virtual currencies, including Bitcoin, are unregulated. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority has made it an official stance, I think, at the very end of 2013, making that very clear. That stance hasn't really changed. When INX was incorporated in 2013, we voluntarily applied for a money services operator license through the Hong Kong Customs and Excise Department. And we like to have and maintain an open dialogue with both HKMA and the CED. When we applied for the MSO license, we were very bluntly told that we didn't require it. We weren't required to have the MSO. At a time when you had the likes of Mt. Gox and other bad actors in the marketplace, for us, voluntarily applying for a license we didn't need, but it was the only license that was even close to what it is we were trying to achieve. So we're happy to be, regularly or routinely audited by CED to prove that we are taking KYC and AML very seriously. In a wider aspect, in terms of what regulators are doing within Asia, and also on a global perspective, I do think there are some countries or some jurisdictions, some regions that are taking virtual currencies, taking decentralized technologies more seriously than others. And I think, in a long-term perspective, I think it's actually going to help everyone, because essentially all these businesses want innovation, all these businesses want this fintech growth. And the ones that are taking it seriously will be the first ones that adopt or do allow some sort of change.
I think for us as a cross-border payment service, we're kind of global in nature, so we're not purely based in China. We also have companies registered in the UK and in Hong Kong, actually. But just to focus on China, because I think that's what people want to hear about. Again, digital currencies haven't been regulated in China, and I think that's been a sensible approach in that it's allowed China to really come to the forefront of the blockchain and Bitcoin industry. I think for blockchain, China's definitely number 2, and then if you look at certain elements of the blockchain industry, such as Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin exchanges, it's number 1. I don't think that would have been possible if it had some very, very restrictive regulation. Nobody really knows exactly how regulation will play out or how the Chinese government's thinking, but certainly it looks like they're taking this kind of wait-and-see approach. They're watching kind of how this develops, and they don't want to kind of nip it in the bud too early.
Well, maybe I'll ask kind of the same thing, maybe in different ways. And the model that each of you are applying with your companies in your respective countries, do you think it's something that is unique to your countries and the conditions in your countries, or something that could be applied to other countries? Yes. So basically, what you're doing, Phil, what you're doing here in Vietnam, is it something that could be done in other countries? Why or not? Why or why not?
I think everything we've done in Vietnam here can be done in other countries as well. The only thing different is maybe the remittance. As you know, after the Vietnam War, Vietnam has a lot of like Vietnamese-born people that live outside of Vietnam. They send a lot of remittance to a lot of money back to Vietnam to support their family, and that makes Vietnam become the top market for remittance. So that is some advantage for using Bitcoin as a remittance service for Vietnam.
With respect to what we do to ensure sufficient KYC and AML, Everything that we do, I think, could be replicated in a lot of countries. One of the things that we do is, even before KYC or AML, especially from Hong Kong perspective, was mandatory for a cryptocurrency exchange. It's something that we have always done from the start because we simply see that that's where it's going. At the same time, always be respectful of the jurisdictions you can't support. For us, there is no way that we would like to service US customers simply because the KYC, the AML, the necessary MTB licenses that's required on a state-by-state basis, it's just not worth our time to service those jurisdictions. And there's some others that we don't service.
I would take our service OP-Sign as an example. It's a digital authentication service. Korean government had official authentication service, but it required Windows system and lots of ActiveX installation. So our CTO really hated the system, so he decided to make a better authentication system on blockchain. So we started specifically to target customers who hate ActiveX and Windows in Korea. But it's a system so simple to use and very low cost to maintain that it can be expanded to anywhere in the market.
I think certainly the regulatory situation in every single country is very, very different. And I think all of our companies need to be very, very careful in how we operate. And I think a lot of the Bitcoin and the blockchain companies are self-regulating themselves in preparation for the regulations to come in based on kind of existing traditional financial regulation, which I think is a sensible approach.
Yeah, okay. So since you mentioned blockchain, and blockchain is one of the core themes of this conference, let's focus a bit on that. And so I'll ask each panelist, what is kind of the level of blockchain adoption? How much is it being used in your country?
For Vietnam, I see that currently the adoption of blockchain is mostly stay at the level of using it as a Bitcoin as a currency for speculation, for payment service, and currently that's how it is. But we expect that the application of blockchain gonna be improved later on. We're gonna buy some blockchain research and development team later.
I'm going to take it a little bit more global than what has happened in blockchain in Hong Kong specifically. For me, I left an investment banking career, 3.5 years ago to start something that really interested myself and my partners, which was Bitcoin and blockchain technologies. And the general reception at the time was that it was comical. You was almost laughed at. Why are you leaving an investment banking career to go and do this crazy thing called Bitcoin? And it's been an awesome 3 years. It's been a crazy adventure, and it's almost gone full circle now. The likes of banks have now, when I left, it was comical, and then it was dismissal, and then it was fear, and now finally it's come to acknowledgement. And then I was at the Cards and Payments Expo in Singapore a month ago, and at almost every session you now have major banks, be it retail or investment banks, who are acknowledging that technologies such as blockchain, Bitcoin, peer-to-peer lending, mobile apps are all disrupting and they're all changing. And the banks haven't got that for a very long time, and they are now finally, they've almost, haven't missed it, but they've now accepted the fact that these technologies, they aren't a fad. It's not something that's going to leave us overnight. And they're now scrambling as quickly as they can to try and adopt, which is great. That's fantastic. But that's where I see things. I think also everyone right now, especially in Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, is focusing on financial inclusion products, which is fantastic. The UN defines financial inclusion as something that provides balances, transactions, credit, and insurance. If you do that, you're offering financial inclusion. And I think now one of the awesome things about fintech, and everyone in the world is focusing on fintech, and there is a lot of hype around it, but the positive outcome of many is that people are now developing apps that are decentralized, that do operate on very cool technologies such as blockchain. And if the Western world and the historic nature of banks and other people that have provided these financial services, the very cool thing is that some of these products are going to work, and they may work so well that they may actually be adopted back into the Western world, which is fantastic.
In case of financial institutions in Korea, I would say they are in proof of concept status. They've been all well educated. Now they actually want to see the technology working in their live network. Next year, it will really decide which direction the Korean financial institutes will head. In terms of government, in Korea there's a ministry called Ministry of Future. Their role is to invest in future technologies. They fund research projects to startups like Coinplug. This year we received more than $700,000 to research on blockchain. And even Bank of Korea is interested in blockchain, that they gave us a research project last month. So I would say that all financial institutes and government bodies are very well aware of blockchain, and they have keen interest in it.
I think in China as well, there's a lot of institutional interest. For example, you've got a very large company called Wanxiang that have done a $10 million investment in a blockchain lab. UnionPay have a blockchain lab. I know Bank of China are definitely doing a lot of research into fintech with a strong focus on blockchain. Even the People's Bank of China, the Central Bank of China, are doing research into digital currencies and how blockchain technology could be applied to building China's own digital currency. So there's a lot of kind of activity in that area, but I think, again, all of it's in proof of concept stage, and there's not actually any real applications. Where there is real applications at the moment is in exchanges, Bitcoin exchanges, and in Bitcoin mining. And China's really kind of leading in those two industries. And I think it's one of the Chinese Bitcoin business leaders are a bit frustrated because they see themselves as the most profitable Bitcoin companies with the least investment. Whereas if you look at the US, generally all of the companies, the Bitcoin companies in the US are burning cash like crazy, yet they've got all of the investment. How they solve that, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely frustrating for them. And I think as well, I run the Bitcoin meetup in Beijing, and we generally get some pretty good turnouts for that. There's a lot of kind of grassroots community. There's a website called VBTC, which has a lot of activity on there too. But at the moment, the real kind of grassroots users of Bitcoin, it's all about speculation. I think it's probably very similar in Vietnam. It's either long-term investment or day traders, pajama traders, essentially.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of research happening at this time. There's a lot of speculation happening at this time. Starting again with Neil, what do you think is the kind of near-term future for blockchain technology, let's say in the next 3 to 5 years, especially in your country?
I mean, I honestly think that cross-border payments are probably one of the first best applications of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. I would say that because that's what I'm doing, but I certainly see that as kind of something that can be realized now, and it's a problem that is a real serious problem for businesses, for individuals, that needs a new technology to come in and disrupt things. I think as well, trade finance is like, for example, escrow products. Small businesses are completely locked out from any kind of sensible escrow solution, and I think that's something that could be built very, very cheaply on smart contracts and on blockchains, on things like Ethereum. So I think that could be a really exciting space, but it's really early days, and there's so many different projects being worked on at the moment. It's really difficult to guess where the industry is going, I think.
I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, standardization effort from financial industries in adopting blockchain will be the trend. Whoever provides a standard that everybody's happy with, it could be segmented into smart contract standards, settlement standards, and so forth. But there will be a big player in each field, and each financial institution would like to adapt whichever is most widely used.
We keep hearing about how we can keep using blockchain technology. We keep seeing these amazing diagrams, how it's going to change the world, and we're going to have registries and OTC clearing and settlements and all these crazy things that are going to happen in blockchain. Will it happen? Yes. How long that will take? I don't think, or I'd love to see some actual physical use cases come out. Everyone's saying, I can do this on blockchain, I can do this on blockchain. Can you sell it? Can you make money out of this? Is there really an advantage? There are still a lot of limitations of blockchain technology that have to be overcome. For ourselves, ANX recently invested $500,000 in bootstrapping a new startup that specifically looking at integrating blockchain technologies with core banking systems, very similar to Pavel's earlier session today. So that's what we're sort of placing a bet on. We offer retail services and business-to-business services, but at the moment, like I said, ANX is now bootstrapping a startup with some very intelligent engineers looking at both hardware and software devices, along with people who have investment banking experience, because that's where we see it. That's what we're betting on.
I think 3 to 5 years in Bitcoin world is a very long time. And many things can happen between that period.
But in Vietnam specifically.
Yeah, I think in Vietnam, Bitcoin would be one of the best free form of free market, and the best innovation will happen in the free market, I think. And with the I think it will be a lot of innovation happen on smart contract, like one of them have been talking about that, and also with the Internet of Things, plus the Bitcoin as the Internet of Finance. We will soon see a world of robot economy from Bitcoin.
Would you dare to make any other predictions about the technology adoption in Vietnam?
There's a lot of Vietnamese startup now focusing on IoT thing and gaming as well. So we will see a lot. Some company changing the business model, working with blockchain technology to earn money, or to give incentive to people to play games or trading or gambling.
So we've heard kind of like what might be possible in the next few years, but it's not all going to happen that way, right? And so maybe we can hear from each of you like what you're kind of afraid of as far as whether it's regulation, whether it's a fear from consumers, any kind of problems like that will need to be overcome for your predictions to come true.
So I'm happy to go first. Okay, so for us, the biggest limitation that we've discovered, especially not only in Hong Kong, but I'll also hear this from other regions that are trying to attract fintech and try and support innovation, is banking. I'll be honest and say banking sucks. It really does. No one wants to support small businesses in most of the jurisdictions that we operate. Even if it's a small to medium enterprise, the moment you discuss something along the words that starts with B, be it Bitcoin or blockchain, most of the banks are like, no. And what makes it worse is that they have these innovation programs that they then have some exclusive right that allows them to do that. So from my biggest thing and my biggest frustration isn't regulation. I think regulation will actually won't be self-governed as such. I think that regulation will adopt and regulation will change by the governments that want to support innovation. But at the moment, you still need a bank account to operate businesses, as much as everyone wants to move onto the blockchain and whatever else be the case. Until we're in that last mile where everyone is ready to stop that. For me personally, and also for our business, banking has been extremely difficult, and it's one of the things we always have to work at full time and have a dedicated team in ensuring that we have banking resilience, because we know that at the moment we do not have enough. Not bank accounts, we have plenty of bank accounts, but we don't have enough banking relationships that people who want to genuinely support where this business is going. And I can only say and predict the reason why that is because they're scared.
I would say I'm most afraid of competition in the market and disappointed end users choosing other companies over Coinplug. So we're only a team of 27 people. So in the next 3 to 5 years, we will really work on operating our service in a best quality, I would say.
This is a bit of a cop-out answer, but I'm generally quite optimistic about the future. I think there's a lot of kind of interesting. I think generally in most fintech companies, their biggest fear is regulation, and regulation turning out bad. But I think there's a lot of kind of positive movements in most jurisdictions for kind of relaxing some of the some of the limitations that will allow this innovation to flourish and Bitcoin and blockchain to really kind of come to the fore. I mean, for example, the UK has got the regulatory sandbox coming in soon, and I think Singapore's is already active. Things like that, I think, will kind of show the rest of the world that this can work and it can foster a lot of innovation, which will kind of encourage places like China, Vietnam, hopefully, to kind of also adopt similar regulation.
Right. So some countries, like the ones you mentioned, are innovating when it comes to regulations. But what about? I think we have no more time. Sorry. So basically, some countries kind of are ahead of the curve, and not all countries, and maybe Vietnam is somewhere else on the curve. What is the risk of not innovating for your country?
I think there's a huge cost to not innovating on the regulatory side, because if these technologies turn out to be very, very important, for example, like the internet, if you don't have the correct framework in place to allow startups to succeed there, you're not going to have the kind of grassroots technical expertise, you're not going to have the startups, and you're going to have to rely on outside companies to come in and provide the services that are required to allow the region, the country, to compete on the global level.
Anyone else?
Government's biggest fear is always higher unemployment rate. So if you don't invest now and fix your regulations, your unemployment rate will go up.
I think their biggest fear is not being able to tax people. But I think it was Simon Dixon that said before that if the regulatory side of things doesn't change, people just will not open and incorporate there. They will go to where it's more regulatorily friendly. And a very good use case of that, or to moot that point, when Australia imposed GST on Bitcoin purchases, surprise, surprise, all the Bitcoin exchanges left. So I think that's ultimately what will happen if they don't provide the flexibility and around people being able to innovate. They will just simply leave and do it elsewhere.
Bill, what will happen if Vietnam fails to innovate?
Well, as we can see with the taxi industry, if they don't try to innovate, there will be some competitor coming in, like Uber, and it's totally disrupt the taxi industry. So Vietnam has to be innovative on stuff, or it will miss out the opportunity that it should have. So in this case, Vietnam, we've been talking to the central bank of Vietnam, and the things seem to be getting better and better over time. So it's very good.
Do we have time for a question?
To the Bitcoin Vietnam, obviously INX and the rest have already touched on the biggest problem is banking. Bitcoin startups can't get banking. How's the Vietnamese banks been supporting the Bitcoin startup? If there are, maybe there's only a couple, but are banks causing problems for blockchain Bitcoin startups here?
I have to say that most of the financial institutions in Vietnam are still very skeptical about Bitcoin, especially after the statement of SBV around 2 years ago. The media is mixing between illegal and unregulated. So when they try to translate it, so there's a lot of confusion going on. But in fact, it's just unregulated like the other market.
So the banks are using regulations as a reason not to give a bank account, or they're doing it anyway?
They do it anyway, but I don't see much support from them yet. I hope they will. With the hype in blockchain and with the recent rise in the Bitcoin price rate, I think they will want to jump into this Bitcoin blockchain thing soon.
Thank you. Thanks so much.